To give another analogy, it's kind of like when you turn on the TV or
Mhm.
when you watch YouTube, you're watching a channel, but there's an infinite amount of channels that are still working and on for other people. You're just not tuned into that one yet. So I think we're becoming much more aware of there's so much more going on around us.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. Today we have wonderful, magical Suzanne Spooner and a vision board moment for me because she's been inspiring me to follow this path and see like all the wonderful things that we can do with QHHT and how much we can really help people to move forward to what they are really meant to be or to do in this planet. So thank you so much for being here, Suzanne. I am really grateful to have you.
Well, thanks for inviting me, Monica. I'm happy to talk with you.
Thank you. So I'm going to start with you. And please, if you can share with us how you end up doing QHHT. I think many people is going to have that wake up call at certain point in their lives, as we did. But how was the path for you that took you here?
Right. Well, I think everybody has a Dolores story, how Dolores Cannon happened to them. And for me, I had seen her on an interview, and at the time I found her interesting. Probably the most interesting part was she looked just like my grandma, and my grandma had passed. And so it was just, like, oh, she reminds me of my grandma. Um, and it was something that she was speaking on that I just wasn't quite ready yet to look at very deeply, I guess. I think it was ETs or something like that. Like, I wasn't against any of that or anything, but it just wasn't where I was at that time. So I just kind of stored her away. And then she popped up again on another interview about a year later. And she was talking about, I believe it was her latest book out at the time, is Convoluted Universe Book 3.
Mhm.
And that really got my interest. And so many different experiences in her convoluted books. People have lifetimes of energy, and they have lifetimes as ETs, and they have lifetimes in other dimensions. So I think it was that just really sparked my curiosity. And like so many people back then, I wanted to have a session with the great Dolores. And so I called down to the office and I got put on her list, and it was a couple years wait. And while I was really getting into that book, I started looking on her website and saw that she taught how to do what she does. And at that point, several years earlier, I had had a past life regression, but I mean, it was really interesting at the time. It was nothing like Dolores's. It was just the past life. And so I didn't really have any answers of why I was seeing it or how it tied into this life. It was interesting. So once I saw that she taught it, I really felt the need to take the class. And so I signed up for the very next class. And you never really having done that type of work before, it was kind of a jump. Um, and I just felt like I had to take it. And so a few months later, I drove down to Arkansas and I sat in class, and she was amazing and so down to earth. I just loved her from the very beginning. And that's how I started in my work with QHHT.
Oh, so you had a session with Dolores herself, right? No.
Now, this was way before I knew about Dolores. This was somebody that was local here. Uh,
Okay. And that was just past life, like only
past life.
past life. Yeah, no, that happened with me too, because like I mentioned, I think before to you, like I did my first regression in 1996. And it was wonderful. That is kind of why after 30 years, I kind of came back to the same type of therapy that I am curious. But um, yeah, so now you are opening like dimensions, you are opening like beings from another planet. So you are learning that our souls can expand in so many different ways, not just the past life, right? That as a human being in this planet, So why do you think there is that shift? Do you think is the moment that we are living trying to get to fifth dimension? That is kind of how many people explain it, or the frequencies are faster. So why are we getting this knowledge?
Well, I think it's just evolution. And, we're in a rapid time of change. And even people that aren't into this type of work know that things are happening very fast now. And it looks very chaotic, especially when you don't have the point of view of this great spiritual work.
Mhm.
So, I think as we open our minds up to the thought that we're so much more than what we have been told we are, we're capable of so much more than what we've been told we are, then it opens up possibilities that we didn't know we had. So I think it's just a natural progression of human evolution, and we're in a very fast-paced environment for that evolution right now.
So first, why a QHHT session? Why a person will, do you think, can be benefit from it in your work?
Okay, so I'll give you the first answer I give when somebody asks me what I do, and then I'm like, I don't know if you're ready for this. So my very vanilla reason for having QHHT sessions, I just tell people I help people find their own answers to their own problems and
Mhm.
issues. So
Mhm.
I think if you're coming at it from that perspective, I mean, everybody can benefit. Everybody could do better for themselves by knowing the answers to their questions and their life challenges that they have. So that's my beginning point. QHHT is such an amazing process because Dolores, over her decades of work honing this amazing experience, was able to find a way for people to be guided into a deep space of relaxation or hypnosis.
Mhm.
And in that deep space, that analytical left brain that always wants to get wrapped up in fear and worry quiets down, so we can delve into this part of our mind that we all possess, this right side of our brain. Some people will call it subconscious or high self, that has all of our answers and can do all of the healing of our body. It knows why we're having health issues. It knows the root cause, it knows what we've learned from it, it knows everything. So I think QHHT session benefits people because it's empowering. They're giving themselves these deep and profound answers and understandings. It's not coming from me or from you, our own filters. Is coming directly from the client. And I think that always hits home more when you come up with the best answer for yourself.
Yes. And for you, like when you have done sessions to you, or when you have received a session, what was your, like, something that you really remember, or that really like was a big change on you? What was the best session that you had? Like I have my moments that I am like, oh my gosh, like that was wow, right?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Well, my head goes back to the very first session that I did. That was back at my level 1 class with Dolores when we were doing our practice sessions. And it was so funny because I did exactly what Dolores told us not to do. She says, don't have expectations. And I'm like, yeah, I don't have any expectations. But, in my head, I'm thinking this, like, to the person that was going to be my practitioner, go ahead, put me under, I knew, what she said, you could be anything, you could be anywhere. I'm like, right, right, right. But I'm going to be a princess. I'm going to have a
Oh
castle.
my gosh.
I mean, this is all just inside my head. I wasn't saying anything out loud, but I'm like, okay, go ahead, put me under. And and so joke was on me because when when I arrived to the destination and he asked, what's around you? And the first thought that I had was, oh my gosh, it's a jungle. And then I'm like in a quandary, like, are there castles and jungles? Like,
Oh
that
my
doesn't
gosh.
sound right, but that's weird. And, and I was really arguing with myself about, wait, this doesn't seem right. Like, I want to be a princess. I'm going to have a castle, probably a prince. Oh, it's going to be great. But I'm in a jungle. And he's asking me, do you feel male or female? And I had to like settle in, and I'm like, oh, weird. I feel like a guy. And I said, hold on. And in my head, I looked down and I wasn't wearing much. And I went, I'm a guy. And so I'm still having this internal
Yeah.
conflict about
Yes.
what I'm seeing and what I'm expecting to see.
Hmm.
And honest to gosh, as clear as day inside my head, I heard, shut up.
Oh, wow.
First I
Wow.
thought, whoa, where was that from? And then I thought, that's
Yeah.
rude. And then the next thing I heard was, just go with it. And I went, oh, okay. And so
And you
once
went into,
I gave up trying to control it,
yeah.
then everything went in technicolor and it was vibrant and it was, I could see my life. I was in the jungle. I was, kind of like, kind of like, oh gosh, I'd say South America
Oh,
when the Spanish conquistadors were coming.
oh my gosh.
And we were seeing the boats and we didn't know what the boats were. And,
Mhm.
we didn't know what these people were. And um, it was amazing. It was absolutely not what I expected to see.
Mhm.
No princess, no castle.
No.
And they knew better. I needed to see what I saw.
No, that is funny because like I did a lot of regressions in the 90s, right? And I always say that is what I have like a really like uh easier life in certain way because I think I clean a lot of my past lives very early. But when I went back like a year ago to start doing sessions in myself to try to break another cycle in my life and start a new one. So the first session that I do, I suddenly look at my feet and they were green and big. And I'm like, I felt like I am an elf, but this is not like a cute, pretty elf. It's like an elf, right? And that was very funny because my mind started like weird, but suddenly I did went into the regression and just start jumping from being in the elf realms to my family star, right? And then I said, oh my gosh, like ego comes, right? This is my family star. And now I'm going to receive the biggest message that I will ever get, right? And then they tell me, like, we don't know why are you complaining because you sign up for that,
Right.
and you like to raise your hand. We told you not to go, and they will make fun of that. Like, I was like, it cannot be, right? Because you are supposed to tell me something like, what is my big purpose in this life? But
Mhm.
it was kind of funny, and I went through different stages. But what I did learn was two things. One was like, my soul is very funny. And
Mhm.
it was shown through my higher self that I was really not expecting. And it was also funny to realize, like many times I saw my son sitting on the pool in my house, and I would have this thought, he looks like an elf,
Oh,
right? It seems very early, like I don't know why, but and I
you
think
might
it
have been
is
with
related.
her in that life.
I know. So I think that is beautiful. But when I finished that session, I did have a lot of resistance because I had the idea it's gonna be similar how it was in the 90s. Like I knew what was going to, like I think the part of control, right? I know how this works. That was weird. Like I'm not sure if that was what it was. And I had to really re-listen a little the tapes, the recording that we get. And every time that I listen, it was more like you cannot you know it inside of you, right? And it was like, yes. And I did find my answers. But yeah, no, I think it's very interesting, like the idea that many times we have and how important is to release control. And I think one thing that we can tell to anybody that would love to have a session from QHHT is to release control, right? And be
Yeah, that
open.
helps. That helps a lot, just to relax and just go with the flow of what comes to your mind and just have fun and explore it.
What type of sessions are you getting more now? Is more people like going to human past lives, or I hear for some practitioners there is a lot of like extraterrestrial beings, like in from other planets coming, dimensions.
It is so funny after doing this for so long, there'll be times where I get kind of like the same types of sessions for a while, or the same types of clients for a while. And to me, that's always like, okay, there must be a deep dive for me to learn from, if I'm
Mhm.
seeing so many similar things. Lately, I would say there probably are fewer past lives, what we would,
Mhm.
if we're talking in a linear time frame, probably fewer past lives, more like oh, consecutive lives or
Mhm.
parallel lives
Ooh, yeah.
are happening. I think that's maybe because our minds are more open to the concept outside of a linear time frame. The high selves, though, have been just amazing as always. But yeah, I don't know. I just can't wait, every time I do a session to see what it's gonna be like because lately, I don't think I've had similar sessions. I think they've all been very different, just exactly what the client needs.
I would love to ask you about what you understand about parallel lives because I have this feeling. So there was for me personally, and I would love your thought about that. When I was in the 90s and I saw this past life where I am a Black woman in the cotton fields, and I knew I died thrown in a dungeon where I was for a while, right? So that happened. I thought I released it, whatever. Last year, when I started doing regressions again, I saw her again, right? And I felt her again, and I can feel her a lot. So, and I saw a little more of that life, but then I had a third one where I really, really saw the whole life, like it opened, right? And I saw who was the person that threw me in the dungeon. And it's
Oh,
exactly a person that I am at this point of my life, like closing a stage of the life as well. And where I had the same feeling of being stuck in certain way for things that happen. But in certain way, my aha moment with that was is showing me that I can, I don't know if save her, but I can, first I send her messages, right? You're going to be okay. You are safe. And, but I feel in the way I am going out to that problem or challenge or lesson, I am helping her to get
mhm.
out too. Can I really influence the way that that life, that parallel life ended?
I think it's all possible for sure because, this linear time frame is, so many times in sessions, the high cells will say it's just an illusion, it's just to get you through this earth experience. So yes, I do think that we can change other outcomes. Dolores was well known for saying that every time you make a decision, there's another
Mhm.
part of you that goes the other direction and does the other decision, so that your soul has the opportunity to learn from all of those experiences. So, if you step out of a linear point of view, then that you in those other places is always in the moment of now, which
Mhm.
will sometimes the high selves will
Wow.
talk about this eternal moment of now. So I do think that there's a possibility that each different parallel life,
Mhm.
consecutive life, um, affects and changes the others because we're focused on right now for the most part is where we're at in this
Mhm.
in this physical reality, but I think it's much bigger than what we've ever given credit to.
So you do believe there is lives that are happening at the same time as the one
Oh,
we are living today? Only in this planet, or can we have parallel lives in other dimensions and planets?
well, I would say it's all possible. I've never seen anything that says there's a limitation to our experiences, and so I mean, it makes my brain kind of you know fry out too. As one time when I was in a session, I was having just this wonderful conversation with the client's high self, and it was towards the end of the session. We're just kind of rapping, just kind of chatting, and I was asking her. I was kind of like doing an interview session with the high self about what it was like to be the high self, and I said, I want to know what your perception of time is like.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so funny, Monica, because she says, "Oh, you won't get it." And I'm like, "I know I won't get it, but I want to try, just try me." And she's like, "Okay," and she starts talking about it. And it was very, a moment of nowish, everything, there's no past, there's no future type of deal. And honestly, as she got into it, I felt like a cartoon character where my eyes were going two different ways. I'm like, okay, you're right. Can't get this, but I wanted to get it on the recording because I wanted to
Mhm.
hear it. And I wanted the client to hear it.
Yes.
So
So,
that was really special.
oh, yes, it is for sure. And then, so when you are, what is the information that you've been getting, like from higher self or from other beings that we can share? Where are we as humanity? Where are we going? What is happening, Suzanne?
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? So, every time I've checked in with updates for where we're at right now, they have always said we're right on track. It's our perception that things are looking crazy and chaotic and unstable.
Mhm.
But everything is happening because it needs to happen in that way. And it's a reflection of where we're at with our inner growth. That chaos, they'll say, that we see in the outside world is a reflection of what's going on inside of us. It's just a mirror.
Mhm.
And we're in a great time of expansion. And so things have to get rattled and shook. And, the illusions have to come down that we thought we understood how life works. And it's absolutely not what we thought it was. Um, it's kind of a growing up time. And so they'll say that it's right on track. Whenever anybody asks for dates, like when's it going to happen? When's the big change? When are we shifting to 5D? All of that. The answer is always very similar, and is that you guys are creating it as you go. So we can't give you a date and a time because as a collective, you're deciding when this happens. But they will say everything is on track.
But five dimension, right? Is that a place that we are going, or is that, in your point of view, a conscious mindset that we are going?
I don't think it's a destination. I think it's a mindset and it's a perception. I'll give you an example.
Mhm.
One day, as I was coming down to my office to give a session, I stopped at a little restaurant that I go to often. I went there today. And but that day when I walked in, like I kind of just like almost like took my breath back. When I walked in, I'm like, whoa, this place feels so good today. And the whole place felt very happy. It's a great place anyways, but it was different than it had been before.
Oh, wow.
And I walked up to this gentleman that makes sandwiches, and I just love him. He's a big, big guy. And he just smiled so big and he says, "It's so nice to see you."
Oh.
Oh, it's so nice to see you too. How are you? And it was just real genuine, heartfelt communication while he was making me a sandwich. And,
Mhm.
then I went to the next person where I was going to get a drink and, just so loving and so kind. And I didn't stay there to eat that day. I was going to bring everything down to my office. But I remember at the door, I turned back around and just went, wow, I just have never realized how cool this place is. Like this is wonderful. It just felt so good. So the next day I have to come down to my office again. And I'm like, I wouldn't normally eat at the same place 2 days in a row, but that place, that was like, it was so fun yesterday. I'm going to go back and check it out again. And I walked in and it was like, oh, okay, it's back to normal. It wasn't anything like it
Mhm.
was the day before. And I had to think on that a little bit. And that really high vibe experience to me was very like 5D, or I mean, I don't really like putting numbers to it because,
Yeah.
that's linear, but it was a higher vibration and a higher frequency. So I think we're getting moments of that here and there. I think most of us could relate at times where everything just looked brighter or felt more peaceful than normal. And I think that's the greater, higher consciousness coming into play.
Do you think then, in what we are going to call 5D, because like you said, it's not like putting a name, everything is going to be easier and lighter?
Well, I
Or
think so. Because I think in that type of vibration frequency, I think conflict would be at a minimum. And I think if it occurred, it would be handled in a much easier way than we handle it in a traditional way from what we've come from. So yeah, I think it's like having a really, really, really good day. Everything's just kind of going your way and you're helpful to others and others are helpful to you. And it's an easy experience to have.
So we all have a higher self, right? Is
I
this is this higher self like what I experience and what I am trying to get is like when you go up, it's like we are one, right?
Mhm.
Are we pulling for a collective higher self or is an individual higher self? What is your thought about that?
Yes, and yes. It can be all of that. In my sessions that I've given, sometimes it's a collective that comes through as the high self. They'll talk about we, they'll call themselves we, or they'll call
Mhm,
themselves a council or a collective. And for that client, that's the part of them that
mhm.
needed to come through to give them the information. And the high selves, Julia talks about this, Julia Cannon in her explanation of the high selves about we all have many layers and levels of this high self. And in
Oh,
sessions, you'll see this. Sometimes they will be very jovial and they'll crack jokes like you and I do. Very funny and humorous, very relatable in a human experience. And sometimes they're very dry and they don't have humor and yes, you don't crack jokes with them. And there's been times when I've had that higher level high self, and I'm asking a question about the client's body. They're having a health issue, and I had one once that just like the eyes were closed, but he just kind of like rolled his eyes and just went, "Oh, the body, it's just so temporary." I'm like,
wow.
yes, but that,
It's
you
important
as
right now.
him is working through these issues and they're painful. So we need to help him resolve them, and it's like, oh, all right. It's just, I think it's like saying, I have a piece of dust on my fingernail, and that's a big problem, to I elevated myself, an issue within the body would be similar to something as minimal as that, perhaps. I don't know. But yeah, it's always interesting because that personality of that high self that comes through oftentimes isn't similar to the personality of the client that we've gotten to know during the session, which is fascinating. I love that part.
Yeah, but I think it's beautiful what you just said because one of the parts that I'm most enjoying the QHHT sessions is when you find these moments that people becomes a spirit or they transition from life to life. Uh, Suddenly, like anything that you could be living becomes so small when you can see like or feel the love, the reencounter with other souls that they knew in this life or they find there waiting for them. And like for me those moments are like magical, right? Like you realize that everything you can be going through, it doesn't matter,
Right, right.
you know.
I had, I'll share this with you. I teach level 3. I've taught level 3 over the years. And so I'm reviewing currently a level 3 practitioner that I taught. He's renewing. And so I had to listen to his session, and the client was just astounding. I mean, this was such a great, I told her this is like book session material. But for her, one of her experiences was she was in the time of Jesus and she was observing him do his stuff,
Oh.
be with the people. And she was talking about, she was just an observer. She wasn't in a physical body at all. She was etherical. But how beautiful it felt to see him interacting with people and, just from this perspective of the observer. But then she actually popped into a physical woman's body that was right there, like a walk-in, so that she could experience being with him physically and see, the
Oh,
difference,
wow.
similarities between being an observer and watching him and being physically right there with him. And it was, I mean, who would have thought, about those two different perspectives with that, very, very high energy soul of Jesus. So, I mean, it's experiences like that in a session that just are mind blowing because, of course, yeah, I'm sure when this lady walked in to have her session, that wasn't anywhere on her radar that she was going to experience. But yet that deep love that was felt between her and Jesus and that woman and Jesus, really, I'm sure has shifted her to this day, as something that she did not have, perhaps knowledge or access to in that way, walking into the session that she had walking out.
Oh, no, with an experience like that, I think life can change very quick, right? And what you believe about life.
Yeah, I think it's a very mind and heart expanding experience.
And with all those things that you have experienced, that you have watched, how do you see us personally, like human beings? Like, what is your idea? What is going on?
Well,
Like for you? Yes.
you know, it's been really interesting. I think, I love the perception that I get from being a practitioner because I get to see kind of this whole range of human beings and how their life experiences shape them and what, their high selves pull forward for them to learn from, and I learn as well. So, I think especially, starting in 2020 when we started going through these crazy wild changes, um, I think we are seeing much more clearly where all of us are at.
Mhm.
I think before it's kind of like, I wonder if he's into this, or I wonder, what she thinks about that. And it's like, whoa, now like, man, I know where you're at. And so, I probably the best person that I've heard describe this was Bashar, the
Mhm. I know.
channeler. And he says, it's like two trains going down the track, and for a while they're side by side, and people can hop off and on, each one, and then pretty soon they start doing this, and then you've decided to be over here, and you've decided to be over there, and I kind of feel from my perception we're kind of like that, and it's to give another analogy, it's kind of like when you turn on the TV or
Mhm.
when you watch YouTube, you're watching a channel, but there's an infinite amount of channels that are still working and on for other people. You're just not tuned into that one yet. So I think we're becoming much more aware of there's so much more going on around us than what we've been told. I think we're taking it on as our responsibility better now to look into that and see how it changes and affects us to know more about reality. Or there's the flip side of that, and the people that like, I just want things to be normal. I just want things to go back the way they were, and it's what
Oh, wow.
I'll agree with what everybody tells me to believe. It's kind of, we just see that so much clearer, than
In
we
the work,
did.
yes. And in the work that you do do you feel you have been chosen for that, for a specific reason? Like, what is your thought about that?
I don't, gosh, I've never thought about it that way. I think I am, I think I'm following my purpose. I think my purpose on a big scale is to help people find their answers within themselves. Um, yeah. So yeah, I don't know. I've never really thought about it that way. I feel like I'm on track. And I feel very happy with the body of work that I've done. I'm very excited about some things that I have coming up and some new things that I've started. Um, yeah, so I don't know. I'm happy. I'm very happy with my life.
That is beautiful. So in the sessions when we call the higher self, how do you, because they scan the body and they can heal things in the moment if it's appropriate and the person is ready, how do you understand why we create illness in the body after seeing all of that, right? how will you describe and guide people about being healthy or being ill? What will you say after everything you have seen?
Well, after everything I've seen, I mean, there's two thought processes. And the one that we grow up with typically is that things just happen to us, or it's a family condition. My, you know, my father had this, so I'll have that type of deal. We don't really take responsibility for what we put into our body, and most importantly, our thoughts and our feelings and our emotions, because the other school of thought is what Dolores discovered in her years of work, is that it's our beliefs, experiences, our thoughts that we loop over time in our heads, from this lifetime, maybe even bringing in some unfinished business from other lifetimes
Mhm.
that eventually will cause discord or illness within a body. And I have to say, through my years of doing this, I agree with that. Because what Dolores found is that the body speaks a very literal language. And so if you can listen to what people say are their symptoms, you can pretty much understand what's going on in their life and what's got them to that point. Just recently, I was on an airplane ride, and I was sitting next to this gentleman, and we just started talking. And he told me that he was a president of a university, and he was getting ready to retire, and he was just mad. Like, it was his choice to retire, but he didn't even know why he was mad. He's like, I'm just mad and I don't know what I'm going to do. And, I've done this for so long, and, it was just funny. And so I'm going, oh gosh. And I said, do you have any like knee or leg or hip issues? And he goes, how'd you know? He goes, my left leg keeps swelling up at the knee, and like I can't even walk normal anymore. And I'm like, yeah, yeah. You probably should, take some time and decide what you want to do going forward. I bet that will feel better. And he's like,
Wow.
what? So then we got to talking more, about what he does and about what I do. And he was the nicest guy. And he's just like, my mind's just flowing. My mind's just flowing. I'm like, I know it's really literal. It's just so literal. I'm like, you're at a good point in your life. This is exciting, and you can do what you want to. And, you just have to decide what you should do. And so, yeah, I mean, our bodies are always our way of telling us if we're on track or not. So symptoms are messages. And if you can uncode that message, which is usually quite literal, and you can make the changes to counteract that, then the symptoms go away. This is what we know with this work. And it doesn't matter if it's stage 4 cancer, or if it's, a sore elbow, headaches, eyes, vision issues. It doesn't matter what it is. Accidents are not accidents. They're
Oh my
because
gosh.
you're not listening. And so they have to like smack you with the 2x4. And maybe, when you can't move for a little bit, you'll listen.
You will listen. So they are always talking to us.
They're always talking to us. They'll tell me in sessions often, you guys are really bad listeners. And then I had one client, this is so funny, I just loved him. He always asks for signs, show me a sign. If I'm supposed to do this, show me a sign. And so I was talking with his high self, who was hilarious. And she's like, yeah, him and the signs, I say she, but it seemed like a lighter presence. And she's, it's like he wants a sign, and then he wants a signier sign, and then he wants a signier sign to the sign, and it's just like, I mean, how much do we have to give him? So I think if we could just trust those gut feelings and those first thoughts when we ask ourselves a question, then the answers are right there. It's just we have to get over ourselves and the doubt.
Oh, that is funny that you say about the signs because I do ask for signs.
Oh, I
But
did too.
no, and it's beautiful though, because last time I asked for a sign and they told me in a session that it's going to be a bluebird. So then I have this friend that visit me after 30 years from we met in college, right? And she came for a weekend to visit me. And she brings me a gift, and it's a blue bird for my house. So that was like, wow, right?
Okay. Can I add some wow on top of that?
Go
So
ahead.
bluebird. So Sarah Cosme, who I think
Yes.
you just recently interviewed, she and I do these tours to Egypt. And on our last group, we had a QHHT practitioner, beautiful man, and his husband on the tour. They're the best couple, so sweet. And the QHHT practitioner died suddenly recently. So surprising. And his husband had been communicating with me right after he passed. And he was at his house, and a bunch of bluebirds came and sat on the windowsill. And he's like, that has to be him. That has to be him telling me he's okay. I'm like, oh my gosh. So there we go. We have confirmation of special bluebirds.
They are special. Yes, no, it's like everywhere. No, I believe and I think we should ask for signs because I like everything comes with your beliefs, and I always believe I have a magical life and ways that I receive information, and it has manifest in the bluebirds and the Virgin Mary. Like so, like I could go on with that, but today is not about me. And the beautiful experiences is about other people's beautiful experiences that we can get from your experience. You are booked like 2 years. Like if somebody wants to get a session with you, I think it was 2 years last time that I checked.
4 years.
4 years now? Oh my gosh.
Yep.
Wow. Why do you think is that? Is
I don't know. I mean, it surprises me. There's been so many times though. I've got some. At first, I was like, oh my gosh, I feel so bad that they have to wait so long, because I really would like to get everybody in, right away. But when that topic has come up in sessions, because sometimes I can move people up, or sometimes people have to, be pushed back because of their schedules. Sorry, I think a siren's going to come down the road here. Hold on here. I'm in mute for a minute. Okay, there it goes. So when I've been in sessions, and I've had clients have on their list of questions, why did I have to wait so long to have a session? I'm like, wow, I don't know, let's ask. And so what the high selves have always said very consistently about that is, it's kind of funny. One was very funny. She said, Suzanne, you think you're in control of your schedule, and the client thinks they're in control of their schedule. We're in control of the schedule. And
wow.
this session always happens on the day that the client is meant to have it. And if she would have had it before that, she wouldn't have gotten the same out of it. And she needed this experience to happen first in order to understand what we're trying to tell her for moving forward. So if they feel inclined to book, that's their day. And if they want to have another session with somebody else that can get them in sooner, then if they feel like that's the thing to do it. But I know with all of my heart of hearts now, after hearing this so many times, that when somebody walks in my door and sits down across from me, this is their sacred day, and we're going to mine it for as much as we can to get as much gold nuggets out of their deep expanded consciousness and get onto that recording. And so that's how I look at everybody that comes in, and I'm still in awe when people book out that far, but I don't know. I wonder what's going to be going on in 4 years from now. I think life will be a lot different than it is.
Wow. But that's magical again. And yes, I do believe like doing this work, you learn to respect a lot time, like perfect timing, and things as they are. Is a life of surrender to something because I believe in manifestation. I believe we're powerful creators, but there is a dance between what your spirit decided to do here and what your human body will decide to change. Or oh, maybe I don't know why I signed up for this, right? Maybe. So we have to be a little trying to respect what, because I think spirit knows better. And
Sure.
but going a little back to what we were talking about, illness, because I think a lot of people approaches QHHT to heal. So could you tell us some things that you have seen being healed during your QHHT session?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I've seen so many cool things. Okay, here's a really interesting one. I had a young gal come in. She was in her, I think, last year of law school. And she, since, oh gosh, since she was maybe 8 to 10 years old, I'm guessing, one leg had stopped growing or grew slower than the other leg. So she was out of balance. And so she wore something in an orthotic device in a shoe so that she could walk balanced and keep her body in balance. But she's a young girl and she wanted to wear like cute shoes, and you can't really do that with that situation. So, anyways, when she is doing the healing of the body, we talked about why her one leg was shorter than the other. And what her high self said was that the reason for the slowed down growth in one leg was because she, at that point, when that stopped growing, she was scared and worried about growing up and what she was going to do and what life was going to be like. So one leg literally stayed in the past.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Who
Yeah.
would have thought, right? And, we talked quite a bit about that, but it said, or I think I probably said something like, does she need to stay in the past? Or now that she understands it, what can you do to heal it? And you meaning the high self, but the high self is her, it's all one. And her high self says, yeah, I mean, she understands this now and she's moving forward really good. I mean, she's in her purpose and this is what she's supposed to be doing. And we'll go ahead and we can help the leg to grow here today. And I'm like, awesome. Like
Oh, wow.
it's gonna be perfectly, both legs are going to be the same length. And they're like, yeah, we're doing it right now. And I'm like, tell me how you do that. It's so interesting. And I was like, it's really pretty easy. We just create more bone and, it's like everything's so pretty easy, when you're hearing the healing happening. And I'm like, okay, we went through the rest of her questions and
So you are saying that her legs start growing, like physically growing to the other one?
her leg physically grew in the session to match the other leg.
Wow.
And so when she came out of the session, I counted her out and we're talking about it. She gets up and she's like, whoa, this feels weird. Like, this feels weird. Like, and she went to put her shoes on and she's like, I'm kind of like, I'm off balance the other way now because her leg had grown. And so she's local here and she wanted to meet for coffee like a week or two later. And I'm like, yeah, I want to meet for coffee. I want to see how it's been going for you. And so I purposely arrived earlier and I sat kind of at the back of the coffee shop because I wanted to watch her walk in and see what her gait was like. And she comes walking in, she's got cute shoes on, these little sandals,
Oh,
and she's just walking just as normal as you or I. And I said, wow, I said, your leg looks great. And she's like, it's so funny. She goes, just out of habit, I kept putting my shoes on that had the orthotics because that's what I've always done. But then I'd be off balance. So it took me a few days before I like threw the orthotics away and went out and bought some, cute shoes. And she goes, but that's not even the coolest part that happened. I'm like, no, that's pretty cool. You just grew leg,
yeah.
that's pretty cool. And she says, no, what's really cool is I'm always connected to my high self now.
Oh,
And
wow.
so she says, I'll tell you what happened. I was at a law lecture, one of her classes, and she goes, I hadn't studied for it. It's really bad. And I'm like, I was just trying to kind of like slide down in my chair so I didn't get noticed. And the professor asked a question, and I'm like, oh, I don't know what that is, but my hand goes up. And I'm like, oh no, she didn't know the answer. And of course, the professor picks on her and she just quieted herself down and she just blah, 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 blah out the right answer.
Oh, wow.
She knew it. And she's like, I'm so excited to take the bar. I think I got this, I think it's going to go really easy. So, healing happens in so many different ways, but, the beauty in a QHHT session about the healing is that we're finding out very important things. We're finding out where it began, why it began, what they've learned from it. Because all we are is energy in these unique, dense forms. As energy, we create our own issues. As energy, we heal our issues. So that's why people energetically can grow a leg or heal cancer
Oh,
or
wow.
any of their issues that they've been dealing with, because they understand the root reason behind why they have the issue.
Mhm.
Um, so then that's when they go in and they'll energetically start talking about healing or taking something away that isn't serving them anymore, whatever the circumstances. And then most importantly, and this is what clients sometimes have to take a while to wrap their head around, is their thoughts and beliefs and experiences that created the issue to begin with. And they need to have new thoughts, beliefs, and experiences going forward so they can have health instead of discomfort or disease.
Uh-huh.
We find out what needs to change in their life, and
Mhm.
that's all on a recording. So their body, as I can tell, is very neutral. It's neutral to the thoughts and their beliefs and their experiences. So if they heal themselves in a session, but then they walk home and they get back into life and they go back to their old ways of thinking, doing, and believing, their neutral body will go, oh, we're not done with that experience. And the symptoms will come back on because the symptoms are messages. They're trying to
Wow.
remember. But if they can take what they learned in their session and they listen to the recording and they make the changes that they gave themselves, again, empowering, you need to stop doing this way and you need to do it that way. And if they do it that way, then their neutral body goes, oh, okay, we're done with that old way that caused the problems. Now we're going to do it this way and we're going to have such an easier life and we're not going to be in pain anymore. So it's up to the client afterwards what they do with all this information they give them, but they should have the recipe of getting out of the illness and the discomfort and having a life without that.
I would love that we go back and repeat that part because I think it was so powerful. So when we go back to our environment, we have to change
Yeah.
and not go back to old habits and beliefs and the way that we interact with the world, right? So
Oh,
there has
yeah.
to be a biggest change.
Sometimes those changes are so small too. It's just that we didn't understand that that was what was happening, what we were putting ourselves through. Sometimes they're big changes, but for the most part, it's especially with women, if there's throat issues, we're told not to speak, not, what you be seen, not heard, things like that. And so when people with those issues, when they start saying what they believe, where they thought, oh, I'm going to offend somebody or I'm going to make somebody feel
Mhm.
bad. But if they say it from a heartfelt place, they're speaking their truth and those issues go away. So
Oh,
the body is absolutely fascinating. It's definitely a barometer of are we on track or not.
beautiful. So for people that is religious, very religious, like will a QHHT session will be, a problem with their beliefs?
No, I love to find out before I start really talking too much in a session. I want to find out about their beliefs, and I'll come to their beliefs, and rephrase things so that they feel comfortable with the process. I've had people on the whole spectrum of beliefs and religions and all sorts of things, and that part of them that knows everything will work in the concepts that they're most comfortable with. I mean, I don't force anybody to believe in past lives or assume that everybody believes that. So I love to find out what their beliefs are. And then I'll meld to them and help them feel really comfortable to get the information that they can find that will help them in the best way.
So in the way, if I am a person that doesn't believe in past life or extraterrestrial life, how will I understand the connection with my higher self?
So sometimes I'll ask them, it's fine to believe in past lives. It's fine to not. It's fine if you're not sure. Where are you in those three choices? And if they say they don't believe in past lives, I'll say, that's great. No worries at all. We're going to call this a story. Your mind is going to create a story that's going to help you to understand yourself better and to find solutions to your issues. It's easy to do, and it's very amazing, and it's really fun for me in those sessions. Sometimes they will, instead of going to a past life, they'll go to childhood memories, but those childhood memories have the same meaning to them that what we might call a past life. But every once in a while, those people that don't believe in past lives, they'll go to a past life, and and then they have to kind of think, what just happened here, and I know nothing, I'm always learning. So, I tell them, I don't know. I mean, I think there's past lives. I'm comfortable with that, but I'm open to learning something else. So I just let them wrap their head around it the way that they can, and just do my best to ask the best questions to get them the deepest information possible.
Um, what will be your message for other people, like today?
Oh, my message would be to trust your intuition, your gut. When you have a situation that is challenging, to quiet yourself down, ask, what do I need to do? And then trust the very first thoughts that come into your mind. That's always that part of us that holds the answers. We're trained to shut that off and not trust it. But the more you do it, the easier it gets. And it's exactly how we do a QHHT session. So I'd say stop fighting yourself and just trust the first thoughts that come to mind and act on those thoughts.
Do do you doubt ever at this point,
Of
or are
course
you
I
one?
do. Yes, I'm human. But what I will do, I think that I'm better at than what I used to be like, is when something happens that's a challenge or surprising or uncomfortable, I'll take a step back and think, why is this happening? Why am I creating this? And I'll take full responsibility for it. And what am I supposed to learn from it? And instead of being a victim, and I can be a victim too every once in a while. I can, I did that with my husband last weekend. So I'm totally capable of following in, dust myself off and go, you big baby, you can only control your own reactions. So stop being a whiny baby. But yeah, I mean, yeah, that's part of the human experience is, the gift of being human
Mhm.
this time is that we have the whole realm of experience. We have the highest of highs and we have the lowest of lows. And where those lows don't feel fun to go through, and we wish we wouldn't have to go through them, from what I can gather, in other realms and dimensions and planets and places, that field is more minimal. It's
Oh.
it's it's good to great instead of horrible to awesome. So, and they'll
I
say,
love that.
well, they're jealous about, like, we don't get to feel this, we don't have that depth of emotion. So it is a gift. Sometimes in my really happy life moments and in my very, very sad life moments, in my head, I've done this thing over the years where I'll say, I'm bookmarking this,
Oh, wow.
because when I envision, when I'm out of this physical life, I get to go back and look at where I've bookmarked. And
Oh, wow. I
bookmarked,
love that.
yeah. And I think there's a way of putting that in some filing cabinet somewhere in the ethereal and having that like a picture book to go back and experience, see what
Oh,
I learned from.
I'm gonna start doing that because yeah, that was beautiful. So when we go back, how many generations, like, do you think we influence in other generations, like in our moms, in our grandmas? I hear that,
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know that answer. I learned through my clients asking questions about generational
Mhm.
situations, illnesses, or beliefs. Um, I think the best concept I have of that is, of course, it's a possibility.
Mhm.
Then I also think we don't have to have that if we don't choose to experience it.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
so I mean, I don't hear a lot in sessions about people like they'll seem to travel with the same soul groups.
Yeah, that
Um,
was my question too.
so that would be, in a way, that's that. Um,
Hmm.
but I don't see them like packing up baggage from one generation to the next to carry on with an issue
Hmm.
off. But I think if it's something that they're meant to learn from, they are. So I think it's an individual choice and a collective soul choice, probably. I don't know.
Ooh.
Best I can come up
And
with.
yeah, but it's true, right? Like your family kind of, you have the ones that you are gonna keep going through together. Do you
Yeah, and
think
those aren't
so?
always the family
Or that
that.
is an attachment that I am having right now.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I would tell you that I don't think it's always the family that are the warm, cozy people. It's the family that drive you crazy
Ooh,
or
that
you
is
drive.
good.
Yeah, I think, and here's what my thought is on that. Um, I think the ones that are the biggest jerks to us are probably our greatest teachers. We've got our close connection people that, we feel warm and fuzzy with, and it helps our heart be whole. And then we have the ones that just like cut our throats and pull the rug out from underneath us. But those people are the ones that help us change directions when we need to in our life.
Mhm.
I need to cut you out now, and I'm going to do this. And I wouldn't have cut you out if you wouldn't have cut my throat.
Correct.
Right. So I think it's like we're all actors in a play,
Mm.
and we play our roles really, 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 really good, and especially the bad dudes. And so I think when we get back on the other side of it, I think we're all doing high fives and like, man, you were an awesome evil person. Good job, and you were like the sweetest honey bunch. Thank you so much. So I don't know. I think we're all source, and I think we're all love. And I think in this dynamic of a third dimensional life experience, we have to play all the roles in order to learn what we're here to learn.
Uh, that touches me a little, so I'm gonna ask you about that because, like, I've been working on going to a place where I'm gonna dissolve karma with another person, right? So I will not have to reconnect in other lives.
Mhm.
But if I hear what you are saying, probably this is a great spiritual friend, that is just moving me through life and the things that I decided to learn. So, should I, like, should we in general go to this place that we can really don't feel emotions that connect us with other souls and keep us in the reel of karma or in the wheel of karma? So, what, like, do you know what I mean? Kind of.
Yeah,
Is that,
and
yeah, I.
I would say is in a quiet place, ask yourself that question and see what's the first thought that comes to mind for you.
Mhm.
Because my answer for you is going through my filter and it may not be right. But
Mhm.
in situations like that, I might ask, have I learned everything that I need to learn, and listen to what that answer is. And in our work of QHHT, one of the great gifts that we get as a practitioner is we're more in kind of an observer role.
Mhm.
When our clients are telling us about the harrowing things that they made it through in life, or their past lives are very, very tough. Um, we don't we don't get emotional with them. We don't serve them by being sympathetic that way. Um, so I think, in a hard life situation, I I hope I'm better now at stepping back a little bit and going, okay, why is this happening? What do I need to learn? Does it feel better to be around this person? Does it feel better if I'm not around this person? And I kind of go with my gut feelings on these things more than my logical mind,
Mhm.
and follow that.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Suzanne. Is there any message that you would like to send in general? And I'm very excited.
I just think everybody is, Dolores would say, if you're in a physical body at this time on earth, you've got the golden ticket. And it doesn't feel like it every day, but I think if you look at it from that perspective, then you're more in gratitude for all the experiences that we're witnessing right now. It really is a magnificent time to be in the physical form on the planet. And we're here during a time of great change. And help yourself, put your mask on, and like the airplane, and then you can put the mask on of your child and others to help them. I think when we go depleted ourselves, then we're not great service to others. So I think self-care is really important at this time.
Thank you so much. Thank you for all the work you do, for inspiring us, the ones that came after you, to do this beautiful work. And your light shines, and I am very grateful to have you as a role model. And I hope we have more conversations and our paths cross again. But thank you for today. It's been a gift.
Monica, this has been a great chat. I really appreciate you. Thank you
Oh,
very much.
no. Thank you.